AI is too important to be uh, governed by corporations, right? By big monopolists controlled by billionaires, right? We don't want to have any of them sort of dictate for all of us what's allowed, how it's going to work.
None of the information in this podcast constitutes investment advice or an offer, recommendation, or solicitation by WAGMI Ventures or any of its affiliates to buy or sell any securities. Hey everyone, Benga here with another WAGMI Ventures podcast episode. Today we're going to be doing another dive into the growing crypto AI space with Ron Bodkin, founder of TheoriqAI and CEO-founder of ChainML. Theoriq is the first on-chain multi-agent system enabling users to build, deploy, and earn via a community-governed AI agent marketplace, all developed under the ChainML AI agent research and development platform. For anyone who is new, this is the WAGMI Ventures podcast, where we do snapshots with interesting builders and founders across crypto and AI. Check out wagmiventures.io to learn more about the syndicate behind the podcast. All right, let's get into it with Ron. Hey, Ron, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Benga. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. And for sure, looking forward to this really engaging conversation on everything AI and crypto. You clearly have a strong background in emerging technology, over 15 years in AI across data science, analytics, machine learning, large-scale data processing, all the cool stuff. Tell us, what was your journey into crypto like, and how did AI come into the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur most of my career, always excited by new technologies. You know, whether it was earlier at internet, I dropped out of the PhD program at MIT to start a B2B internet company that we took public, and then got into AI and machine learning, working as VP of engineering and leading research also at QuantCast, pioneer in ad tech, applying those technologies. Then I started a company, Think Big Analytics, applying AI for enterprise, scaled it and sold it to Teradata, a large database company. Went on to work at Google in the CTO office for Google Cloud, where I was focused on applied AI and responsible AI. And it was really quite interesting being at Google. I got a sense, obviously, people there are very capable. And at the same time, even though very capable and many well-intentioned people at Google, you still had the system of being part of a big tech monopoly produced bad outcomes. And it was clear to me that efforts around responsible AI, beneficial AI, it was mostly corporate social responsibility, ethics washing rather than a serious priority for people, that profit and power were the root drivers and how the system was set up. You know, I went on to work at a nonprofit, Canada's largest AI research lab, the Vector Institute, with 500 researchers and over 100 industry sponsors, leading building an engineering team and scaling the compute infrastructure. And, you know, in those experiences, I had long believed in my time working with AI that was going to be the most transformational technology of our lifetimes, and incredibly important to get it right, that there were huge benefits, that AI can be transformationally good for us, but also huge risks that it can go horribly wrong, and that we need to have the right governance and the right approach to how do we deliver AI to the world, right? And so I really believe that it's terrible risk to rely on a few billionaires to control the future of this technology and really through it society, right? And just this week as we're recording, we're seeing great evidence of that with OpenAI suddenly rugging everyone. It's like, oh, just kidding. We're not a nonprofit. And Sam Altman having pushed out everyone who was a founder with him and saying, oh, you remember when I testified to Congress that I don't have any equity in this thing? Well, guess what? That's changing too, right? So we can expect big monopolists to act like monopolists. So for me and the founders of Theoriq, it was incredibly important to embrace the Web3 ethos of community governance and incorporating multiple stakeholders and self-sustaining open source with a protocol that can be beneficial. We'll talk more about where we landed in terms of Theoriq as an AI agent protocol, but that was really motivating for me and for us, really led to that. The other strand I would point out is I'd long been really interested in Web3. A good friend of mine, Jeremy Miller, was on the leadership team at Consensus and got me engaged with them. I gave some advice to Joe Lubin and the team at one of their offsites early on from my experience as an entrepreneur when they were a small organization, and had been intrigued by Web3 a few years ago, but felt like it was still quite new and unproven. Fast forward to late 2021, and some friends of mine, colleagues from Teradata, the founders of Space and Time, Nate and Scott, had reached out and asked me to advise them. And as I was helping them think through building an amazing database that was decentralized, ZK proofs, really tuned for the Web3 market, it got me excited by what are the potential for building great infrastructure with a self-sustaining protocol in Web3. I felt like the space had matured a lot and it was an exciting time. And they, and also David Post, who at the time was at Chainlink, who was a real advocate for us collaborating and working with them, convinced me that it was a great opportunity. And I got the band back together, reached out to the founding team, Arnaud and David and Ethan, and we agreed this was a great opportunity. And that was really how we came to start TheoriqAI.
That's all fascinating. You dropped a number of gems there, from ethics to ethos to risks in AI to how you sort of just jumped into the Web3 train. And we're all going to pick all that as we sort of talk through here. I think for me, I just want to understand like the trajectory of your career here and why you think AI needs blockchain technology to scale, or perhaps do you think it's the other way around?
Well, I think AI really does need blockchain and Web3, right? I mean, I think what we absolutely believe is that the way AI is going to roll out at scale is through increasingly autonomous agents, software that runs and accomplishes tasks on behalf of users, that has a brain, which is these LLMs, which is a misnomer, but models that are increasingly able to process lots of different types of input, whether it's text or video or images or audio, and produce output of the same, right? So that's the brain. The working memory is the context, which is all the data that's available, right? Like what is known, what are examples, what data can be searched, what data can be retrieved from an index, as well as tools, the ability to do things, call APIs, take actions, query databases, run code, right? Like all of these things put together, that's what an agent is. And we believe passionately that the future is going to be that everyone is going to be able to train and create specialized agents that leverage what they know to build high quality agents, and that we'll have collectives or teams of these agents working together to accomplish things. And that's going to be transformative in business and in our personal lives. So we believe that to enable that future, you need governance, which decentralization is important for. You need permissionless composability and dynamic discoverability. So agents can work together. Agents need reputations, which ones are high quality in what context. Or a blockchain is great for having that evidence and being able to independently assess and determine, having broad community input on what is quality agents is incredibly important. Agents need to own resources. They need to pay each other. So you need to have blockchain for digital currency and ownership, right? Mm-hmm. So technically blockchain is important for these aspects, and to have a protocol where you can have a self-sustaining payment mechanism. So there's a way of ongoing funding, development, and the maintenance. But then also it's incredibly important because in order to take on the big Web2 monopolists, you need to build the biggest network ever, right? Like make it so anyone can create an agent, people can get feedback on the agent, they can improve the agent, there's incentives for people to try it. And so token incentives is incredibly important to bootstrap that adoption so that people have come in and try out agents early on and give feedback. And those who are creating agents can have resources to sustain their development and to scale and grow. And the Web3 ecosystem is far superior to the Web2 ecosystem that's just rigged in favor of a few monopolies. Like for an independent agent developer to be able to start to build an audience and get adoption, Web3 is promising. Whereas like trying to take on Google and Meta and OpenAI and say, we're going to win more consumer adoption in Web2 is just a losing proposition. So it's both technical and it's in terms of the ethos, the governance, and the incentives. Is why we think AI needs blockchain and Web3 in order to land well, and we believe it will actually outcompete. So I think very importantly, there's people that think you have to sacrifice something and go with a worse product through decentralization. We believe that you shouldn't have to sacrifice. You should have a better product and enable the richest, most successful ecosystem that everyone will want to use, that agents will become the killer app for blockchain to power everyone's experience. And maybe a lot of people, just like a lot more people are trading crypto on centralized exchanges like Coinbase rather than on DeFi with a self-custody wallet like MetaMask, we think that a lot more people are going to maybe start using blockchain through rich AI agent protocols like Theoriq before they go deeper and start getting their own wallet and custodies. Maybe they'll use bridges and manage custody of their wallet, but they'll still be accessing and leveraging and benefiting from that blockchain technology and Web3 ecosystem under the covers.
Hey everybody, quick thing here. We're excited to announce WAGMI Advisory, your home for all things fundraising, hiring, and partnerships. This is all about supercharging your project with the WAGMI network, consisting of over 20,000 executives, investors, and builders in crypto, all ready to come alongside your project to help it succeed. Get in touch at team@wagmiventures.io to learn more and figure out if WAGMI Advisory is the right fit for your project. Let's get back to the show. And I think of like Theoriq, basically enabling users to build, deploy, earn. And the crypto ethos of doing that in a community way, governing these agents, would want to get your thoughts on why that governance piece is important. Obviously, it may also touch on what you had talked about earlier around transparency and risk, but kind of want to just hear your thoughts on why it's important that the way you're building it is community governed.
Yeah, I mean, the AI is too important to be governed by corporations, right? By big monopolists controlled by billionaires, right? We don't want to have any of them sort of dictate for all of us what's allowed, how it's going to work. And I think Chris Dixon nailed it when he talked about there's this attract extract cycle where Web 2 companies, when they're starting out, they attract users. They make a really great product. Then they attract complementary businesses like developers and make it really appealing to build and participate. And once they're entrenched and they're dominant, then they extract. They start to take more and more of the value. The product gets worse because it's less about what the user needs and the user's stuck. And so they make it more and more about them. And they squeeze out and kill third parties like developers and take all the value, right? And so right now, Web 2 monopolists and aspiring monopolists like OpenAI are in the attract phase. At least they're trying to build great products and there's vigorous competition. But we can't rely on them long-term to behave like that. We should expect them to become quite extractive. The use of AI will become central in the economy. And so whether it's through corporate use or through personal use, winning companies in that space are going to try to create proprietary standards and moats and make it so you have to use all their technology, and they charge more and more and they limit options. I mean, it's amazing to me. OpenAI has already been incredibly extractive. The rate at which they kill startups that are built on their APIs, usually at this stage in the cycle, there's at least an effort to recruit and work well with developers, but they really aren't doing that, right? It's like, it's a joke among people building AI agents how OpenAI kills so many startups each time they announce new product features. And when we've talked to agent builders, they're hungry for a protocol, a standard that they can plug into that lets them escape from being dependent on OpenAI and their good graces, or indeed any of the monopolists. So as a community, it's incredibly important. And I think we've seen how open source ethos and the concept of a DAO, the idea of having multiple stakeholders vote and really steer a technology, it's a better way, right? And it's like we can bake in a reliable governance mechanism that allows for open source, allows for community feedback from the right expertise, and is not subject to the good graces of a few people, right? So like OpenAI, for example, and Anthropic has done the same thing, wrote, when they started, they had this whole charter, they're a nonprofit, they've got these lofty goals. In the end of the day, when the battle of the board happened last year, chips were down, Sam Altman proved that he had enough power to destroy all of that and take control. And that's what he's done. So it didn't matter what words were written down in a piece of paper. The actual reality was you had one billionaire who controlled the thing, and he's pushed everyone else out who in any way opposed him. And now he's driving it in a completely different direction. So how can we rely on centralized companies? And then unlike maybe some in the Web3 ecosystem who seem to be nearly anarchist, I do think there's a role for government. I think we should have governance, but I definitely don't think government can be relied on to move quickly and keep up and be nimble. And so setting up good private governance that's international through cooperation has to be our first line of defense, and still having government to backstop it against key risks and to fund, frankly, research, right? Like we need a lot more great academic research and resources. So less of what's going on in AI is being controlled by the billionaires. And I want to see more funding from the Web3 community, but I don't think we should ignore the role of government in good outcomes here as well.
Right. I love how you framed sort of like the Web 2 approach to all this versus the Web 3 approach to all this. And guessing OpenAI, Anthropic on one end, and then on the Web 3 side, folks like TheoriqAI helping to sort of like charge a world that is more decentralized, more transparent, with no secret agenda, if you will. And it's great. I mean, it really speaks fundamentally, again, to the ethos of Web3 and how builders are building in this space. The competitive landscape on the Web3 side, how is that looking? Or is it much more of a cooperative engagement with all the players who are really looking to do things differently from a Web2 view?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is characterized by a lot more collaboration, right? So like we're seeing a number of areas where there's great startups, right? So GPU compute, also known as DPIN, right? Where you've got players like Akash and Hyperbolic and Nosana, which are some of the several partners we have, many of whom are exhibits, right? Many of these organizations are also now providing inference endpoints. So it's easy to access open weight models like Llama 3.1 or now Llama 3.2, right? And we think that those are very complementary, right? Those help with providing the brain of the agent. Then you've got various efforts to give data infrastructure and data, right? So organizations like Space and Time or Grass or Coin Network or Masa, who are working with in various ways that make data available to agents and create a data economy. And we also see pioneers really saying like, hey, long term, we need to have community developed models, right? And so we see Sentient and Near, for example, really pushing on how do you get community development of models, right? And these are examples. There's many other companies. I can't list all of them in each of these categories, many of whom we're working with, right? So there's a lot of these complementary techniques, even orgs that are working on training infrastructure, right? Like Bagel or Jensen, right? So we see all of these as very complementary, and there's this rich stack of capabilities as well as at the agent layer. And there are organizations that are overlapping, competing with us. Morpheus is another one that we think highly of the engineers there, and we're actually engaged in discussions with them also across many of these organizations, groups like, say, Wire Network or Biconomy around standards for agent ownership and payment, or 6079, who's putting a lot of effort working with us and some of the DPIN providers on proof of inference, right, to be able to validate the compute that's being used when it's done in DPIN used by agents, right? So there's a lot of layers and a lot of effort around standards that we think are important. Also Zero G, who's providing great data infrastructure, both for data availability and decentralized storage for AI models is another great example of complementary. And then we also see other people like Autonomous, where they started off doing more of an automation framework, but are adapting it to be more of an agent framework, or My Shell, which is more of a character chat bot, chat with your AI girlfriend. They'll often talk about themselves as agents, but they have a very different approach. Whereas, we're much more about integrating many agents working together in a composable way rather than more of a build a single chat bot that someone would interact with. But those are some orgs that we're seeing in the Web3 AI space. And then you also see things like Tensor. Frankly, I think of them as more of a capital provider. They're gotten a large token value, and a lot of projects will plug in and do this thing or that thing, where essentially they've created an umbrella where people earn their token in return for participating. But it's not clear that there's what the long-term value is there. It's like short-term, they've got a lot of excitement around their token and they're funding projects, but it's not obvious how there's synergy there. But they're certainly a prominent player in Web3.
Right. That lineup was pretty interesting, the different approaches, the different players in this space. But I think, to your point, there is much more collaboration, more overlap in some regards than you see in the Web 2 world. Obviously familiar with a lot of the work you've done with space and time and data economy creation and some of the other use cases that have come out of the work at Theoriq. Where do you see the most adoption and perhaps the most promise, or is that still very much evolving?
We're excited. We just this month here in September, late September, launched our initial test net. And we've, in addition to early collaboration with Space and Time to power their Houston chatbot for making it easy for anyone to query data in Space and Time's database and visualize it and even forecast, as well as make it easier to integrate with their APIs. We've also been working with Filecoin Foundation to make it easy for people to access data about Filecoin, and soon data, all kinds of other data agents that can access specialized public interest data in Filecoin. And we've also been excited by partnering with Bondex, a fast-growing Web3 social network for job seeking, to make it easy for people to find jobs, research companies, make it easier to apply for jobs. And then a really big use case for us is around investment and trading, right? So the full end-to-end of being able to do analysis and research, as well as partnerships we'll be announcing soon to make it easy to have agents to even automate the execution of your trades, right? So like a full closed loop. And we're in conversations with a number of exchanges around making that kind of functionality available for exchange users to really give them AI super tools, right? Our goal is to make it easy to get the best information, whether it's in social or blockchain, so that people can be informed and empower individual investors in crypto to have the same kind of capabilities as the big institutional players, right? And have agents that stand on their behalf and do work for them. So that's an exciting one. We're also seeing a lot of excitement around prediction markets. Haven't yet seen any agents released in our marketplace, but we think that's an area that we're expecting to see more activity soon.
Yeah, I was going to jump on that. Like, for your prediction market and DeFi use cases, would love to hear more about where you think the opportunity is and where you think it could potentially go.
Yeah. So what we're seeing in DeFi is the ability to really tap into the social conversation, understand what key influencers are saying, and get insight from that, as well as get insight on recent trading data, recent ownership data, right? To let people see what's trending, see what's going on, quickly do research, quickly get insights. We think that's really valuable for a lot of retail traders. And then to be able to ultimately simplify the execution, right? It's no secret that for many users integrating with a wallet and doing trade execution through DeFi can be complicated. So simplifying that with an agent to help them make that part simpler, that's all really promising. And we see also increasingly with collectives of agents, you don't have to have just one advisor, one approach to thinking through things, but you'll have more and more contributions in the agent marketplace of more and more ways of thinking about investing. And you can put together a team of expert advisors in real time to guide you from different perspectives. That's in the DeFi use case. We think that's really exciting. And then similarly in prediction markets, people are excited. There's a lot of increased trading, increasing insight. And again, agents can do all this research and have different perspectives. And again, you can get multiple agents to give feedback and advice to make it easy to decide, like, do you want to participate, and what are where's their opportunity to jump in and really participate successfully in a prediction market.
Yeah, no, I find a lot of that very interesting. I think when you talk about agents really helping with that the user experience piece of onboarding more folks into Web3, whether it's connecting the wallet and trading, and if an agent can really help make that piece seamless, it just makes the adoption of Web3 crypto a lot more seamless and faster. You talk around like agents doing research, it's very much like digging into like behavioral finance and helping get smarter and how they trade and what people are doing. So these are all really interesting. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and go back to a point you mentioned about your recent testnet launch. Obviously, a lot of this is still work in progress, but would love to understand like the challenges through that testnet launch, any lessons learned, any expectations going forward on maybe like testnet V2 or even mainnet.
Yeah, I mean, so far we've had really good feedback from the testnet launch. The way we've done it is we've been rolling it out with a set of enthusiasts, people who are in our Discord. People are excited to jump in and participate early on, giving us some early feedback. And I think it's always important to get that community feedback. And so we're dialing it in and making a few adjustments before we sort of move to the next phase of really rolling out incentivized testnet. I mean, we're already tracking information to reward people, but we'll put a lot more promotion behind it in early October. And then we've got a series of exciting collaborations with agent developers to roll out that I don't want to steal the thunder, but that'll be coming throughout testnet. And we have upcoming testnet releases. We have important functionality we're planning to roll out. It includes a no-code builder. So anyone can create great agents based on what their expertise is instead of having to be a software developer and use the SDK. We're going to be rolling out payment, right? So that there'll be ability to do micropayments to pay for use of agents, as well as having specified amount of free credit to really support a wide variety of business models. And we have API rollout, right? So a series of testnet releases planned, our goal being to get to mainnet and rolling out our own Optimism superchain participant later this year, which is how we're going to be hosting. Our first testnet is on Optimism's testnet Sepolia, but we plan to move to running our own chain hosted by AltLayer, right? So lots to do, but our view is like getting to mainnet, getting to launch is important so people can really rely on and have production agents and do payments. But that's just the beginning of the iteration. We have lots of things ahead, like community staking and continue to decentralize and roll out more governance, and lots of work to do as we continue to ongoing tuning and feedback on how to have agent evaluation and community feedback. So it's AI agents are moving so fast that there's going to be a fury of updates to the protocol as we learn and work together in the community.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds like it's a very exciting road ahead with the planned features on the roadmap. Any thoughts you can share with us on the longer term vision for TheoriqAI?
Yeah, I mean, we think that we're moving rapidly to a world where a majority of knowledge work is done by AI agents instead of people. And with that in mind, the protocol needs to keep evolving to hit the aspirations of being that decentralized governance and to include standards so we reward pro-social agents that work well together and that support all of us. So there's a lot to do on the governance. There's a lot to do on continuing to tune. How do you give feedback and assess quality? How do you make it easier and easier to have agents? We aspire so that anyone who wants to do useful knowledge work, the easiest way to do it is to jump into TheoriqAI and start interacting. And it can either find the agents that are already available, or maybe if there's a gap, you can teach it how to do the thing if you know how to do it well, right? So it can be just a great way of engaging and bringing AI, whether it's for your personal work or your business. The other thing we're seeing is the adoption of AI moving incredibly quickly, but it's individuals who just jump in and start learning tools and apply it to their work. That's way outpacing anything that top-down corporate motion, right? And so we think that's going to continue to be important. And we think Theoriq and our agent protocol collaborations of agents will be the best tool for anyone who wants to accomplish something. So we encourage people to try that out and give us feedback.
Fantastic. We've done a lot of digging here on the AI piece of things and your journey into this space. From everything else you're seeing in crypto, would love to learn, what else you find fascinating in crypto outside of the AI, of course, that's plenty, but just want to hear your thoughts on where you think the space is going, what excites you, and what is interesting.
Yeah, I think there's a number of layers to that. I think that at a core layer, the rise of stable coins has really created a really powerful payment infrastructure that's really helping a lot with unbanked people and adding efficiency in an important way. It's no accident that using stable coins like Circle and Tether is core to the design of Theoriq, right? So I think that's a huge unlock, and that's going to be a massive adoption. People are just going to find stable coins to be incredibly useful tech, right? So that's one thing that I think is incredibly important. Another is, I think, the broadly iterations on DAO governance and how to really have decentralized governance that can transcend technology that's controlled by monopolists and have a proper balancing of voice and representation. That's a continuing work in progress, but I'm really excited for that because I think it's not just in AI, but everywhere we have a great need for long-lasting protocols that are developed in open source, that are run by the community and for the benefit of the community, and have self-sustaining funding, right? And I think those are huge trends. And there's just so much cool infrastructure that's happening when you're seeing so many great projects building high quality infrastructure, right? And some of that is in blockchain technology, like ZK proofs and parallel processing and increasing throughput are exciting. But I also am very excited about not all decentralized technology is a blockchain, right? So things like 0G that's taken decentralized storage and made it so it can run at speeds competitive with centralized solutions, right? That kind of technology for storage and for compute. I think we're going to see this rich array of decentralized infrastructure. And that's important to have a series of points on the trade-off curve of what do you do? Whereas I think sometimes the Web3 community is just too focused on blockchain, and blockchain is important technology, but it's not the only game in town. And sometimes it's too high overhead. Likewise, I think there's the right use of cryptography is important, but some computations, such as state-of-the-art AI models, are going to be super expensive and high overhead with zero knowledge proofs. So you're not always going to rely on that. I think approaches like Follow Network is doing using trusted execution environments are going to be very competitive in terms of giving you a way of having confidence in the integrity of computation, or sampling-based approaches, or other low overhead approaches like in proof of inference. So again, there's going to need to be, and there's work on just a range of options rather than maybe if early on there was a maximal nature that a lot of people thought that things needed to be a blockchain and have very strong decentralization guarantees. But at the same time, the uncomfortable secret was the architecture of almost all dApps had centralized pieces as well. I think a more balanced perspective on what to decentralize and how is going to really advance the movement a lot.
Yeah, I love that answer because you talk through what we're seeing in the stablecoins today and sort of even in the crypto AI where there still needs to be growth and where you're seeing exciting pieces of that happening. And of course, where the challenges continue to remain today, especially from a funding perspective. Rod, it's been amazing having you on the show. I can't thank you enough for the amount of insight and knowledge here that you have shared with our audience, and really can't wait to have you back and talk about what you're doing next and how you've continued to drive forward AI in crypto and the ethos of it as well. So thank you very much for being on.
Thanks for having me here, Benga. It's great talking to you.
Awesome. All right. Take care. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and give us a good 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts so you can get all the latest conversations from the most interesting founders, builders, and investors from across the world. Thanks so much, and have a good one.